Everyone's made their picks. Might as well get mine in. Let's talk about who walks away a winner in each conference championship. If you are new here, welcome on into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. So if this is the type of content you enjoy, make sure you smash that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment telling me your thoughts on who you think is winning in every single conference. Tell your friends, your family, your sister, your brother, your mortal enemies, your workout buddies, your fraternity brothers, your entire church congregation, literally the drunk, passed out guy in a Publix parking lot about this channel. We're on the race to 1,000, then 5,000, then 10,000, then 50,000, then 100,000, and we'll get there. So make sure you join the party now. And as always, let's continue to talk college football. By the way, you like this type of content, go ahead and give me a follow on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. When you hit subscribe here, because it's the exact same as my YouTube channel, just go over to Elon Musk's app and then click follow at Mr. Cole Thompson. Thanks in advance. It's really easy to focus in on the 5 Power 5 conferences because everyone knows that those are the games that are going to dictate who plays for a national title. But I am a proponent of wanting to talk about every team possible. So we're also going to real fast go through the group of 5 level conference championships. Starting tonight, Conference USA, New Mexico State takes on an undefeated Liberty team. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, Liberty still has a shot at making it to a New Year's Six Bowl. They need a little bit of help from another opponent, but if they do win tonight and they do secure their first Conference USA championship, they actually will be in the running for at least making it to a New Year's Six. Never thought that was going to happen. Jamie Chadwell's really done a good job replacing Hugh Freeze. They're undefeated for a reason. And mainly it's because of this scoring offense. They're in top 10 in the country in scoring. They're averaging over 38 points per game. Caden Salter has been phenomenal. He ranks top 10 in passer efficiency, top 10 in passing touchdowns. He also is one of the best mobile quarterbacks in the country, over 800 rushing yards. And this is a guy who knows how to utilize his legs. So does the Flames in general. They rush for over, I think, 2,000 yards this season. They have 2 running backs that right now have been phenomenal. They lead the country in rushing yards. This really comes down to, if you are the Aggies, finding a way to make sure that this team stays out of the red zone. This is the number 8 red zone defense in the country. Jerry Kill has done a really good job of turning the defense into something of a stout performance. They're top 25 in scoring. I just feel like the Flames right now, they have the momentum, they have the edge. Jamie Chadwell, I don't think is going to be coaching for another opportunity elsewhere. So he's going to be back in Lynchburg next year. Give me the Flames. They stay undefeated. They win the Conference USA championship. Next up, Toledo versus Miami of Ohio for the MAC championship. Maction, baby. I don't understand why people are saying Jason Candle is not going to be a good Power 5 head coach, because no one really knows at this point. He's paid his dues. He's been around the block for a hot minute in Toledo, and he's won multiple MAC games to where you say, I could use that type of culture inside my building. But nevertheless, they won't be playing for a New Year's Six Bowl bid. Unfortunately, they lost in week 1 to an Illinois team on a game-winning field goal. Besides that, they've rolled. They've been phenomenal. You really got to like what you've seen from the rushing attack. You've got to like the mobility of what you have. And the guys such as Dalen Flynn, not to mention only that, this is a team that knows how to be able to win on third down. They convert 47.3% of the time. And the Redhawks, here's the bottom line. You need a fast start. This was a game that was actually played earlier in the season, and Toledo jumped out to, if I'm not mistaken, a 21-3 lead. And then slowly you watched as the Redhawks made their way back. They lost 21-17. So if you jump out early, you utilize your passing attack with Gabbert, and you find a way to keep drives alive on third down. For you specifically, I think you're in a decent spot, but you also got to stop Toledo on third down. That's a lot easier said than done, but Redhawks defense, they're one of the best at third down conversions for opponents. Currently, if I'm not mistaken, they're number 8 in the country. So this is going to be a must-see game if you're not paying attention to the other schools. But give me the Rockets. Momentum, they're surging up the ladder. I would have had them ranked inside of the college football playoff top 25. It's a shame that Jason Candle's probably going to get passed up for a job this offseason, but one man's loss is the Toledo Rockets win, I guess, for the future. All right, next up, Mountain West Conference. It's UNLV of all teams, which is really interesting because of the Barry Odom hire. And then it's Boise State. And Boise State is no longer that same Boise State that we all knew and love, because that was a team led by Chris Peterson and then Brian Harsin. And then Andy Avalos came in, and he was fired at, I think it was late November or mid-November. And they finished 7-5, so they've been fine, but nothing to write home about. Meanwhile, UNLV is one of the best scoring offenses in the country, and that's a testament to Brennan Marion, the offense coordinator, who actually took over after Bobby Petrino went to Texas A&M. Bobby Petrino was supposed to be leading the charge up in Sin City. Instead, now you got the Rebels getting the guy from Texas who's had that go-go offense, and they're probably going to go all the way to a Mountain West title. Barry Odom is a name that I would absolutely look at if I was a Power 5 school needing to bring in a new head coach. He's proven that he can win on the recruiting trail, primarily in the Midwest. He's done a good job of building defenses both at Missouri and at Arkansas. And I think a team like Houston, if they can't land a Willie Fritz or a Jeff Traylor, that would be the first phone call I would make. But I think he's going to probably be back in UNLV next year, which again, Mountain West, getting now Washington State and Oregon State, maybe you'll have some trouble. Maybe you end up beating both those teams, and maybe we'll have to start including the Mountain West in a Power 5 conversation. All right, last one before we get out of here. Move on to the Power 5. My apologies. It's Tulane versus SMU. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this one. I was really excited for this matchup when you first thought of it. You know, Tulane gets the win over UTSA, so they claim their spot. UTSA, unfortunately, knocked out. Kind of like a, hey, who wants to get the Houston job bowl, in my opinion. So now you worry about SMU, but you really don't. SMU is favored in this game, but they will be without Preston Stone, their starting quarterback, broken leg, out for the remainder of the year. I think when you look at Michael Pratt, I think when you look at this rushing attack, they average over 4.5 yards per play. The Green Wave's also hosting this game. And there's a lot of rumors that this is probably Willie Fritz's final game in New Orleans before he gets a Power 5 job. One I might also mention he has absolutely earned at this point. So I think that if you look at the likes of what you're going to see from Michael Pratt, what you're going to see from Willie Fritz, what they've meant to the University of Tulane, they want to give their fans something to talk about. And if you don't have Preston Stone, I hate this for the Mustangs, but unfortunately, this is where you reside. Go ahead and give me Tulane to go ahead and get the massive upset win. Now, tonight, Pac-12 title game. This, to me, is one of those matchups where you kind of have to throw what you saw in week 7 out the window. It was a very good performance by Oregon. It was a very good performance by Washington. Washington had one more throw. You had a few choice fourth down conversations. If you're Dan Lanning, he decided to go for it. It came back to bite him in the ass on multiple instances. And because of it, you had to go for a game-tying field goal. Didn't work. And there's Washington's ability to win. Here's the difference. Washington has not looked like that same Washington team since that game. And when you look at Oregon, they've been fundamentally sound. They've dismantled teams by double digits all across the board. Their offense is thriving right now, primarily in the passing attack, headlined by Tez Johnson and Troy Franklin. And I don't know how many people can know this without looking it up. Bo Nix has surpassed Michael Penix for the most passing yards in college football this year. He has been on a warpath to try and show the world, I'm no longer that kid that was playing at Auburn. No, I'm a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback. So what are the keys for this game, in my opinion? If you're Oregon, I think you got to target Tez Johnson. I think everybody in the building, especially at Washington, has been preparing for Troy Franklin, one of the best and most underrated receivers in college football, to get open. So you got to find Tez Johnson. That's a relationship that Bo Nix and him have had since their early days of growing up in Pinson, Alabama. So when you have that connection, if you can win primarily on third down, get inside the red zone, then you trust Bucky Irving. Then you trust that your offensive line is going to be able to hold a block. Then you trust that if you are Bo Nix, you utilize your legs to keep the six going. That's when you want to be effective. But I think you need to target Tez Johnson a little bit more than Troy Franklin. They're preparing for it. If you're Washington, okay, so this is a team that ranks 89th on third down stoppage. You have got to be able to hold, I would say, at least 50% of the plays off third down. You got to force punts. You got to be able to keep them at their side of the field. More importantly, you have got to be able to trust your run game is going to be able to make at least some noise, because once you get that going, they're going to play into that notion, and then you're going to get your opportunity over the top. And Rome Odunze is going to be the number one receiver in this game. I have no doubt about it. He's been it all year long for Michael Penix Jr., but you have more than one weapon. That's the blessing of being in an offense like the Huskies. They can easily attack everywhere they want to go, and they can do it quick. They are basically an assassin on the verge of striking every play because of it's a quick jab, quick strike, and boom, you're 40 yards down the field. Whether it be Jermaine Bernard, whether it be Jalen Polk, whether it be Jalen McMillan. But I do think Adunze has to be the one to come up with a key catch. You have to be able to allow him to work in the open field. You have to allow him to utilize his route running skills to a T. And if you do that, it takes one play. It really will only take one play for Michael Penix Jr. to find himself. I don't think that this is worthy of being a Heisman versus Heisman conversation. Ultimately, I think it probably will because of Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. are playing for something and Jaden Daniels is watching at home. But I think a lot of people are sleeping on this Washington team. I do. They found ways to win in a multitude of different avenues. You know, you look at the Utah game, they trusted their defense. You look at the Oregon State game, trusted the deep ball, even in rain. They got a couple of blessings in disguise, a few blips here, a few blips there. But this is a team that I think deserves a little bit more credit. Ultimately, though, as much as it pains me because I picked them at the start of the year, I will say they'll cover the 9.5-point spread. It's an absolute joke that we're even having this conversation. But I think Oregon does find a way to win. They, however, are not guaranteed to be in the college football playoff. Even with the committee putting them at number 5, I still think that there is a conversation to where maybe, just maybe, they would be left out. Speaking of being left out, Texas, they have to win. Plain and simple. They're going to Arlington for the first time since 2018. They're looking to win their first Big 12 conference title since 2009, and also their last Big 12 conference title. And it was really interesting to hear Steve Sarkisian kind of talk about this game because it is a little bit of the passing of the torch. Because Mike Gundy isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And Gundy also is one of the more underappreciated coaches in college football. Like, you can put him right up there alongside Kyle Whittingham for dudes who have done their job at a very elite level at a place that is somewhat challenging to win, and they never complain, and they always find a way to get the job done. Like, that's Mike Gundy, because this was a team that was dead in the water at the start of the year. They lose to Iowa State, and they lose to South Alabama, and they don't have a quarterback, and their run game is obsolete. And then they realize we have an identity. Let's trust it. Let's go ahead and utilize it to our advantage. And the identity is Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon is the leading rusher in college football. He has over 1,500 rushing yards, 20 touchdowns. And the main thing that works in favor of Oklahoma State, he's great in the fourth quarter. This is one of the best running backs in college football in that final 15 minutes. He's averaging over 6.8 yards per play. 9 of his 20 touchdowns come in the fourth quarter. Not to mention, he knows how to pick up the sticks and he can gallop. He can get in the open field. It's one quick swipe and then boom, he's off to the races. The man is a human highlight reel. He's not going to be a Heisman Trophy winner because naturally you're never going to get a running back probably back in the conversation. But Texas, they have the best defensive line in the Big 12. They're letting opponents average less than 3.1 yards per play. They're one of 8 teams in college football that is allowing less than 95 yards in rushing yards per game. And this year, they've only allowed one running back to rush for over 100 yards. And it was against Wyoming. They've allowed 2 players to rush for over 100 yards. And it was Dylan Gabriel in the Red River Showdown. Texas has got to be able to contain Ollie Gordon to allow you to build a lead because they have weapons. They have dudes. They have studs. They basically are X players out. Okay, we'll go to Y. Y players out, we'll go to Z. Z players out, we'll go back to A. And then that's how we go because they have weapons with Xavier Worthy. They can easily pick up a first down with Jatavion Sanders. Adonai Mitchell absolutely deserved Big 12 Newcomer of the Year on offense because he was a blessing in disguise. You still have Jordan Whittington. You have 2 really good running backs out of the backfield that complement each other in place of Jonathan Brooks with CJ Baxter and Jaden Blue. They're both coming off of really good games against Texas Tech. But the thing is that with Texas Tech, you were able to build a substantial lead to where even if the Red Raiders wanted to come back in the fourth quarter, they couldn't. It was a 50-point swing. You never were going to have that happen. But with Oklahoma State, they can. And this is where Texas has to prove that they are not going to Texas, where finally in a big game, they won't fall apart. And they've done it before. They nearly did it against Alabama. They did it against Oklahoma, but they nearly lost in every game against Houston, Kansas State, TCU. They even had to scare a little bit with Iowa State late in the fourth quarter. You got to be able to not let Ollie Gordon be able to run rampant in the fourth. Even if he gets his yards, you have to build a substantial lead to where they're playing catch up. I think Oklahoma State covers the 15.5-point swing. I really do. I think that we're not giving enough credit to what Gordon can be, but I do think Texas does win. And this is where the conversation goes. Resume, Or are we going based off status? Because status-wise, Oregon absolutely would belong in the CFP. Resume, you're not going to find a much better win than the victory over Alabama in Bryant-Denny Stadium. All right, SEC, let's talk about it. So, Georgia, Alabama. This feels like a changing of the guard moment as well, but for different reasons. Nick Saban has not lost in Atlanta in an SEC championship game. Hasn't happened yet. Is this the year it does? Because you tell me back in week 2 that Alabama, led by Jalen Milroe, is going to find a way to get past Auburn on a 4th and 31, back of the end zone. Isaiah Bond, he's going to be the hero, and Jalen Milroe is going to utilize his legs, but he's going to finish with over 250 passing yards. I would have called you crazy. I would have said nope, and I would have thought at the start of the year LSU was going to dismantle Alabama. I would have thought that Texas A&M had their opportunity to feast at Alabama, and that's just Alabama. They adapt or die. Nick Saban's a crocodile. He does not know how to go extinct. And that's a testament to where this team has gone through and where this team is going. You can tell me right now that this is going to be a preview for what we know of the college football playoff national championship in terms of who's walking away a winner. I wouldn't doubt it. I really wouldn't. If you think that Alabama can beat up on Georgia, they can beat up on anybody. They absolutely can. Their offensive line is now more proven. It's more tested. It's gotten better in terms of protection up front. Their rushing attack knows how to keep drives alive on the ground, slowly but surely keeping momentum at an all-time high. But Georgia's got an offense. Georgia's offense is the reason why they are here today. And that is a huge testament to Carson Beck, who sat, who waited, who never faltered, never complained about playing behind Stetson Bennett, just bided his time. And the second he got in the opportunity to score, he took it and he ran. And he has ran his way all the way into conversations of Heisman dark horse, potentially SEC quarterback of the year. He has been phenomenal. Last game against Georgia Tech was his final kind of weak point. And if you can go ahead and attack Georgia up front, because this will be the best defensive line he has seen all year. This will probably be the best secondary he's seen all year, and this entire offense has seen. If you can attack it, and you can find a way to get someone to bait on Brock Bowers to open up the field for Ladd McConkey, or you can find somebody to bait Ladd McConkey to open up the field for Brock Bowers, or Dominic Lovett, or Dylan Bell, or Oscar Delp, I think that Georgia has a shot. The two areas I'm really looking forward to in this game, the matchup against Brock Bowers, how do you take him away? Because if we know that this is a kid that was built like the $1 Million Man in the 1970s, put him together with a couple of paper clips and he's coming back stronger than ever before. But also, how does Alabama react to the red zone? The one weakness of Georgia this year has been their red zone efficiency. You allow them to get inside the 10, Alabama walks away with points. This could be a swing of momentum. And this is a thing where Kirby Smart, brand new SEC, you got to realize this is no longer just those 14 teams. We got 16. This is where now Kirby Smart says, I'm taking over the show. I am the king of the castle. Best of luck to you, Nick. Thanks for all the memories and everything you taught me, but it is my time to shine. And if they win, it's hard to argue that. But I think Nick gets one more over him. I really do. I think that there's going to be one last play that eventually leads to Georgia having to run down the field, and it's very similar to what we saw in 2012. Mari Cooper finds the end zone. Ball gets back into the hands of Aaron Murray. They can't convert. They get inside the red zone. They find a way to get it to like the 5-yard line. Clock runs out. Alabama wins. I think you're going to see something very similar to that. Now, the good news is that Georgia is not out of the running. And Alabama, at this point, it's going to be very intriguing to see if they are able to hold on enough to maybe get into the CFP. All right, two more for you. Big Ten championship game. Michigan's favored by 22.5 points. Here's the deal. Michigan has an offense. Iowa doesn't. Michigan has two exceptional running backs that can terrorize your defensive front. Iowa doesn't. Michigan has wide receivers that aren't an elite player, but they are good enough to get the ball moving. Iowa doesn't. Michigan has a quarterback. Iowa doesn't. The difference is, in my opinion, I think Iowa has prepared for this ground game. You're getting Jim Harbaugh back. Harbaugh might be a little rusty with his play calling. So he goes back to the bread and butter and he says, hey, you know what? Harbaugh football's been working pretty well for us as of late. Let's go ahead and try and utilize that. And I think that Iowa's defense is going to be able to corral Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards into getting a gain of 3, getting a gain of 2. And they're not going to be able to convert on third down. So you're going to have to trust the passing attack of J.J. McCarthy. Now, on the flip side, no Cooper DeJean. So no star secondary player that is literally going to find his way into a human highlight reel video for Sundays come next year. I think you can win that one. And as long as you pick up the sticks, whether that be with like 3 short runs back to back and then a pass, whether that be with, maybe 2 passes and then a run to get the defense to bait, this is where Michigan finds a way to win. Nobody's going to argue Michigan's winning this game, I think. When you look at the offense, Brian Ferentz, congratulations. The numbers were almost as putrid as they were last year, even though they went out in the transfer portal and added in players. God bless you. Hopefully you find a new job elsewhere. Maybe Bill Belichick will be calling wherever he's coaching next year. But the time is right for you to end up going. Iowa has a stellar defense every single year underneath Phil Parker. It's a shame it's wasted all the time. But I do think Iowa covers the plus 22.5. I will say they get in the end zone late. It's a backdoor swing. They're going to go in. But Michigan, they're going to stay undefeated. And eventually, because they will be maybe one of the only undefeated teams left, they are the number 1 seed in the CFP. Last one, ACC. This is a really intriguing game now because we already knew Jordan Travis wasn't playing. Jordan Travis was out. And I honestly have a lot of problems with this for one main reason, and it's been eating at me, so I'll just tell you. There was no reason to play him in the North Alabama game. I get it. It's senior day. It's a game to where he will be honored, but you let him go ahead and play one drive and then you call it. Nevertheless, football happens. You got to be able to go ahead and respond. This is a team that has picked up the pace when it comes to offensive line execution, when it comes to the rushing attack, being able to utilize the drives on third down, finding a way to complement everyone else alongside Tate Rodemaker. And that's exactly what happened against Florida. You saw Trey Benson be effective inside the red zone. You saw the offensive line give him ample protection. You saw the wide receivers step up on second and third down. Florida State, though, is now facing a game time decision. They do not know if Rodemaker will go. And if Rodemaker does not go, at this point, you throw it all out the window and you just say, thanks, Louisville, for finding it an easier pathway for us to get to the playoff. Now, Louisville's got a good run defense. They were able to really do a nice job outside of the big breakaway run from Ray Davis last week to kind of corral the Wildcats. They've been top 15 in run defense all year. They found a way to get better when it comes to pass rushing sets. They've done a really nice job of adding in pressure in the backfield and forcing quarterbacks to throw early. And they have weapons. They do. Like, a lot of people are not giving enough credit to Jack Plummer and what he's done this year because he was a quarterback that understood the offense extremely well underneath Jeff Brom when he played for him at Purdue. And he's got a connection with Jamari Thrash. Thrash is averaging 14.3 yards per play. But this comes down to Jawar Jordan. Can he continue to utilize his legs, especially inside the red zone, to pick up a touchdown and kind of pull this thing away late? I think this comes down to one major play. We're going to come back on Sunday. We're going to talk about this game. And what's going to happen is there's going to be one play, whether it be in the third quarter, a pick six against Jack Plummer, whether it be in the fourth quarter, a fumble recovery by Jared Verse, a late touchdown by Jawar Jordan on a 75-yard run. That will be the difference maker. That swings momentum in favor of one side. Ultimately, as much as it pains me, if you don't have Tate Rodemaker out there, which I don't know what's going to happen, it feels like that you're dead in the water. I don't know if he's going to play. I want to be on the safe side. I'm going to take Louisville. I think Louisville does find a way to get this done in Charlotte. Better luck next year, Seminoles. It really sucks because if you are worthy of being in the college football playoff. And let's just get that out of the way. Florida State is worthy of being in the college football playoff. They just unfortunately are stuck in a rock and a hard place where the one year that a lot of teams are good, so are you. And there's nothing else to say about that. So to recap real fast, Conference USA, Liberty gets the job done over New Mexico State. MAC, Toledo finds a way to beat up on Miami of Ohio. Then you go ahead and talk about the AAC. Tulane gets the job done against a Preston Stone-less SMU team. And it's probably the last game of the Willie Fritz era. Mountain West, you are going to watch UNLV dismantle Boise State. In the Pac-12 title game, close call, but Oregon gets the job done. In the SEC title game, Alabama finds a way to come back and beat Georgia. In the Big 12 title game, I think it's going to be close down the stretch, but I do think Texas builds a significant lead in the first half that allows them to coast their way to the first Big 12 title in over 14 years. ACC, unfortunately, I just think that this is where the magic runs out for the Seminoles. Give me Louisville. And then, of course, Big 10 championship. While I think Iowa beats the spread, Michigan, you're going back to the playoff. Now, what happens when it comes to playoffs? Only way to find out, make sure you subscribe down below and go ahead and give me a follow on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. We'll do another video on that on a later date.